It's time for AI News, brought to you by AIAW Podcast.
Anna, let's take a middle break here, and we have a news segment that we are taking. So let's take a pause from the normal discussion and move into some of the hottest news that we've heard over the week. Henrik, do you want to start, or should I?
Let me start. So I'm going to start on two quite interesting topics, I think. I'm going to start with, first of all, Norway. They released their statsbudget on the 6th of December. And then, I think it was today or yesterday, I read a Medium article where they have sort of dissected the statsbudget to understand what was the AI component of the budget. And the main topic here, of course, is that it very explicitly has stated that they should spend at least, the definition is at least, 1 billion, I guess, Norwegian kroner on AI innovation and research. And I think that is quite interesting in the terms that if we now start contrasting who is talking and who is putting, investments behind their words, who has guidelines and who has, projects, all that fancy stuff, but not one single dollar or kroner to the name. And as to be frank, it's all talk until you start putting investments, and you really need to live up to where those investments go. So, yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. What do you think about hearing that they are very clearly articulating 1 billion? One is a lot or a little? I don't care. The point is to really be sharp on it. What do you think?
I think it's awesome, of course, and congrats to the Norwegian government for making this decision, I think, and they will benefit greatly from it going forward. Then hopefully they have to execute it properly, of course, but I think it's so obvious that anyone that can find the right way to benefit from the possibilities of AI will have a great success of doing so. Then, why should the government get involved, you can ask. Couldn't simply the normal private industry do that investment themselves? And, sometimes, if the government gets involved, they may not be as innovative, or they may not, be able to find the proper way to do it. And a lot of people are complaining that the EU Commission sometimes are deciding and micromanaging almost some of the investment they're doing. But if you manage not to do that and simply say, we're not going to micromanage, we simply want to enable companies and public sector, I guess, to find the best opportunities with us and then let them do it, I think it can be really successful. So I think it's awesome.
But I think there are two parts to this conversation now. First of all, you will get nowhere if you don't have investment behind it. And if you really want to be serious, okay, put some real money behind it from the government. Step one, tick in the box. The next topic is then, how should that money be spent? How should it be invested? Do we think that we should have the government do startups for us? Probably not a good idea. But what I do know is that you have so much work that needs to be done. And we have a stalemate if I go into public sector, if I go into schools, et cetera, that they can't get out of the hole. They need to invest themselves out of the hole. But the current budget in those areas don't exist. And so basically, the next step is then, okay, we have 1 billion now. What is the most bang for buck? Where and how to spend that? I mean, and going back to this article, he was doing a dissection. So, okay, let's now go into the details of the budget. Have they related to this 1 billion in relation to the school section or like this? And this is where it becomes super blurry, right? So they made the first step of we have earmarked money. Still a lot of work to be done even to spend it wisely. And how do I use that billion maybe in correlation to support the school system, or I don't know.
Yeah.
But this is not answered yet, to be honest, right? So how to spend the billion is the next step, of course. That's my take on this.
And
What do you think?
I mean, again, it's positive. Again, on recognition and if a government actually like engages, but as you said there, like what is it actually going to get spent on? And right now we're in the complete before with the internet bubble. Now we're at the peak of everyone coming up with every idea and also getting funding for nearly all of these ideas for like any kind of small service using AI, and of course on like education and learning quite a lot. So what would be the application?
But so the core question, I think, is the interesting question that is still quite blurry, even in this proposal, is that how and what is the role of spending this billion?
Yeah,
that is the most interesting one, right? Because I could argue maybe you need to use that budget in order to fix the school system or something completely different, right? Or you need to use that budget in order to massage talent. We need to invest in order to get AI talent into the ecosystem. So is this a one-to-one spending between 1 billion and coding AI? Not so sure. I mean, I think it's more about, okay, I want to spend 1 billion to fix the regulatory greasing of this. I want to spend 1 billion to set up an institute for AI regulation. Those are the real questions I think is critical. What is the right money and the right way to spend the billion for a government?
I think, this is an example of, what is really a leader? A leader is not someone that tells people what to do. A leader is someone that shows the direction in some way and give the necessary preconditions for someone to do and move in that direction. And if they do that properly, that can be an awesome thing.
Yeah.
And they need to keep their hands out of the cookie jar, so to speak.
They need to do it with the mechanics that is smart. I mean, like you could even say, we have 1 billion in a fund, and now it's up to you, dear departments, to articulate how you're going to tap into that fund. I don't know. There are many ways.
Yeah, but I think, like what you're saying, there's no point in saying we have a trillion that we're going to put on. That's what I mean. Like we're going to put 1 trillion on the internet. Like,
what does that mean?
Good. Yeah, IT tech. Like, fine, but you're going to fuck it up anyway. Like if it's just trying to get a couple of experts, and then we'll have some governmental projects.
That's not what I hope they're going to do with the money, by the way.
No, but
I see that problem.
Yeah, so I think what you said there is exactly what I think that is there any kind of plan? Basically, like if there anything that, for instance, what we talked about before, we have to anything from like whatever security or deepfakes, or as you said, like actual like what do you call it, like communal education. Like we're just going to put everything into how classes work better when you have around like 35 kids.
We're going to go bananas and have AI on every grundskola. That's what we're going to use the billion for.
Or we're going to use the billion to just at least research how AI can help.
Yeah.
I hope they don't only do research, but I don't think they are. But research should be one important step. But it needs to also be the engineering of actually building products and finding the proper use in society.
But this is the problem. Like they have earmarked it for innovation and research.
They did?
Yes. And I think this is scary, right? Because all of a sudden they should put the money on, I don't know what that means, but I mean, like they might need to do, as you said, real stuff, engineering and stuff like that. But the one sentence is 1 billion for innovation and research. Goran, do you have a view on this?
Well, I have, but I don't know. So I used to do a conference which was e-health and IT, and I'm going to be a little bit of a hypocrite right now. It was so easy to do that conference because what happened is that the Ministry for Health and so every year there comes like, hey, we're going to give 1 billion to e-health. And then the whole conference is about like, okay, how are we going to divide this money? So the regions are going to talk about how they're going to divide the money, and the communes are going to pitch with the projects. and then the small players will basically be part of it. And there is no silver bullet there, and every year you can give 1 billion to AI, but there is no real plan how to utilize it, as you're saying. Then it's probably just wasted. But it helps to have a budget.
Yes.
Starting point, right?
In Sweden right now, we had like the prime minister came up and he gave a commitment to AI, but put it in money, and then there is people who will spend those money wisely as well. So it's not a problem. So budget helps, and I think it's a good step for them. Let's see how it's going to go.
Yeah. I have a connecting story actually, and a different way to simply force, if we call it that, people to use AI in different ways. And this is actually from the Swedish company Klarna. So they, as you may know, it's not that one, by the way.
Cool. We have 2 from Klarna this week.
Oh, yeah. So, they did a massive layoff recently, and they had a massive loss in money recently. But what they're saying now is they are going to compete with the majority of banks. Klarna became a bank, I think a few years ago or something.
With a full octroi or like a proper license.
Yes.
I think they reached that level, right?
Yeah. They're a proper bank these days. Anyway, they're now saying, and the founder of Klarna is saying, that this is a major shift, and they're going to quadruple the turnover per employee in 4 years. So they basically can measure how much money or how big a part of the total turnover of a company that each employee has. I guess they're simply dividing the total turnover by number of employees.
Yeah, but if you're letting go of people, that equation is very simple, right?
Yeah.
Yes, that's a simple one. But if the turnover then dips, that would be a problem. Right? So in this case, they are saying that they are going to quadruple the turnover per employee by using AI. So then they're forcing, basically they have, I think the founder of Klarna had, they knew the founder, Sam Altman of OpenAI, long while back. And he also has some kind of investment company, I believe, that did invest very early on in OpenAI. So they have a clear
connection
to them. So basically they have given every employee in Klarna now full access to ChatGPT, and they are supposed to use it, and are even tracking employees if they're using it or not.
Oh wow! Okay.
And they are hoping that by having this full access, they can do everything from customer support to money laundering detection and credit risk evaluations and whatnot. But they are saying that by doing this, having AI as a co-pilot, I guess, once again, everyone is doing that, but they are basically forcing, perhaps is the wrong term, but I think
they're forceful in the direction that you're supposed to take support from AI.
But they're tracking basically if the employees are using it or not, and I think that's more or less forcing in some sense.
But it puts a very clear statement that what is behavior we want to see.
Yeah,
this is very close to forcing, by the way.
They gave a good example, I think, here. They said basically, if you want to switch your mortgage from some kind of loan that you had to another, it should just be the press of a button. That is how efficient a bank should be, and that's certainly not the case with the large-scale banks that we have today. So they claim that the large-scale banks that we have has a massive
tech debt.
Yeah, well, they have profits that are far too high. It's not necessary to have all the administration that they're having. It should be possible to significantly reduce the administration costs that they have.
Yep.
So they are now going to significantly improve that and say that the massive expenses that they have will drastically drop. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a good thing. And that would be exciting.
Okay. We've seen several statements like that coming out of America, coming out of IBM, where they're basically like, are we going just on the hype train now and just putting this kind of storytelling in order to sort of, not greenwashing, but AI washing what we're doing.
The company in Sweden did that very early.
So is this AI washing, or is this true? I mean, is this something that can be do we believe that this can actually materialize? Or is this just a blanket statement? Again, without a plan, as a budget without a plan?
I mean, for one, they say very, very strong direction. You're required to use AI for your everyday work all the time. They also say basically that they had to lay a lot of people off, and now they are going to hire in a pace that is slower than the normal churning rate, so to speak, of people, which means they're going to reduce even more the number of employees, but they still are going to claim to have the same functionality and service to the customers by using AI together with humans. So for one, it's kind of interesting, in the terms of are AI going to replace human, workers? In this case, it's not really replacing; it's simply augmenting, I would say. But still, in some way, they are reducing the number of employees.
Yeah, by augmenting, you reduce as well, because you make one employee two, or whatever you want to say.
At least if you keep the same level of service, but if you actually increase the level of service, then you instead could keep the number of employees, simply increase the service level instead.
What's your thought, Magnus, on stuff like comments or statements like this?
Yeah, I don't really know. My first feeling was like, but isn't Klarna like a company that should just be an AI? Basically, like why does anyone work there? But again on what the actual function is. So can it just be completely automated? But I mean it comes down to the.
Probably there's a huge level of automation that could be achieved.
I think they had a new slogan basically for the company. It's to be something like the AI-driven payment system or something.
Yeah,
I like smooth better.
Again,
but it's basically. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, again, 2015 and 16, there was a bank. It's still a bank.
Yeah.
Whose name tag was the first AI bank in the Nordics, Nordnet.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. And,
2015.
2015, and they were riding the high, 2015, 2016. And they ride the hype on AI, and it was supposed to be fully automated. And they invested a lot of money in Amelia, the chatbot, and everything was supposed to be automated as much as possible. And it didn't fly that much. So.
I mean, like they're pursuing that dream, but it's still quite a lot of admin.
Yeah, exactly. But I agree with Magnus in this terms. Like, shouldn't Klarna just be an AI thing? To just like automate everything.
When it's on that like kind of pragmatic level of data, it's like. Of course, they started and then hired everyone, but it feels like if in a couple of in a decade or a couple of years or something, you would nearly just started basically with a fully automated system, and but with the good offer. But
I think with the progress that we've seen with large language models, they can do so much more than they could in 2015. But to say they can fully automate everything, that's
not now, no,
not yet. But perhaps in some time. But I think still we need to have the collaboration with humans.
Yeah. Any more topics, or should we stop there?
We have more topics, I think.
But time-wise?
Time-wise, we are done. But let's make a quick one, right?
Doesn't exist.
Yeah, we did good last week.
Oh, you did?
We did good last week.
Let's go quick.
Yeah, so I found three actually that I think that are very interesting. The first one was actually the ChatGPT and OpenAI as a company. They just, and this is actually a couple of minutes ago. They reached the 1.3 billion revenue per year, generating over 100 million per month, actually, which is 30% more than they had in a month. So you can see actually how this company is accelerating at this point of time, and it's this is huge. On the other note,
1 billion per year company now.
Yeah, 1.3 billion per year company, 100 million.
What's the profit though?
Yeah,
that's the we will
never know that.
That we shall talk later. About. On another note, you have basically a Wall Street Journal released like a research where they are actually saying that this current generative AI hype and LLM hype is going to be a headache next year, because the cost behind developing and sustaining and managing all of this LLM in the company, no matter if they're OpenAIs or if they are open source or develop in-house, it's Yeah, it's just very costly. So as an example, they put like Microsoft that is potentially losing around like $20 per user per month for the GitHub Copilot. And they're selling Microsoft Copilot for $30, I think, which is like 5 times more than a monthly subscription for Microsoft 365 or something like that. It doesn't matter. It's just basically it's a very interesting tool. It's a super expensive.
It's a hangover coming.
Yes, it's a hangover coming, and I think that even on this podcast we should have honest discussion. Bring this like a couple of people that have actually done this in the organization and just talk about expenses, because cloud computing and this together is going to be a headache for many people next year. Back to Klarna. The Klarna bought Price Runner some years ago. So now basically there came a news that they are aiming to take at Google and Amazon with the AI image recognition tool for shopping. So basically you have your mobile and then you take a picture of some kind of a what is called like a t-shirt or whatever it is, and it provides you like where to buy it and the best prices for it. And obviously the tool is trained on the Price Runner data that they bought a couple of years ago back, so I think it was a very hefty price that they paid. They paid $1 billion for Price Runner. So if this comes true, then that was a very good investment, so to say, right? So they're becoming a proper tech company, not only a bank. So whatever we said about the bank, that is a division. Now this is something else.
I know the Price Runner founders. I actually worked with them.
Yeah, that's right. Back
20 years ago.
Back in the day. Yeah. Wait, what was the technology, or what was the company called that went into Price Runner? You were working on this great, this search and indexing and
before Price Runner, I had a Bugsoft, but that was not connected.
And how did you get to know the guys?
We take that later. You had one more news for today. That was the chip.
Yeah, okay.
We have 2 more news.
Yeah, come on. Let's
go fast then.
Okay, 23 minutes.
Yes, so the chip thing. So I think this is an interesting story that people don't recognize the monopoly that we have when it comes to AI chips in the world. For one, of course, we all know that NVIDIA is clearly dominating the latest type of GPUs that we have. But we have competitors, and some companies are building their own AI chips, like Google with the TPUs and Tesla with their FSD chips and so forth. But still, NVIDIA is by far the leading person. But in fact, NVIDIA is not manufacturing the chips. They are designing it and then asking TSMC in Taiwan to manufacture the chip. And they have a technology to do that. And of course, I think TSMC is like providing 90% of all the chips to the Western world. So they are even more dominant and have a greater monopoly than NVIDIA has in that sense.
For the full semiconductor,
yes,
all this.
But TSMC is not actually creating the technology to create the chip. This is another company in Netherlands called ASML. They have this kind of lithography tool to produce the atoms in a proper way using some, laser guided tooling, which is super hard to create. And there is not one other company in the world that can do this.
Wow. So this is the real secret behind the secret.
Yes. So I think
this is where you should buy
will
stocks.
be a bit technical now, but I think it's so interesting because if you take the latest H100 GPU from NVIDIA, it's using some 5 nanometer transistors.
This is small stuff.
It's really small stuff. If you take the A100, it's the predecessor, a bit older GPU from NVIDIA. It's 7 nanometer transistors. Actually, in the iPhone, you have the smallest transistors of today. It's 3 nanometers that they have. And these are, the only one that can actually create this is this ASML company in the Netherlands. And they help TSMC to produce them, that in turn help NVIDIA or Apple or other companies to do so. And this is the small company that, everyone is depending on. And of course, China is very dependent on this, and with all the kind of export blockage that we have now, this ASML is not allowed to export to China, for example. China is now actually producing a new company by themselves that is able to do what a ASML can do.
That was my question. Like, why, how, and why are they the only ones?
Yeah.
But it is super hard.
But
Yeah,
so what
obviously.
is the core? What is the core technicality complication?
Yeah.
What are they doing that sort of goes into what TSM? Everybody.
It's really a really advanced, hard, manufacturing process of doing so. And but apparently now this Chinese other company are able to produce 7 nanometer chips. So 7 nanometers is this A100 level of quality, which is a really good one. And China before had nothing even close to this.
So even
and being able
Apple
to use
uses
it.
this. This is what you're saying, or is
Apple is using like 3 nanometers. It's the most.
Yeah, but do they know how to do this themselves, or they
no.
go to the same?
They go to the same. So it's one company in the world that can do this.
And this becomes then I'm trying to follow you. So they are doing this stuff, designing it that ultimately becomes the design that you put in a big manufacturing plant in order to produce
That's
this.
TSMC normally, but it can be Intel or Samsung or something. But the technology used to actually produce the chip is one company in the Netherlands.
Can I buy stock in that?
Yeah.
Yeah, ASML is like a
But are they huge on the stock
yes,
market?
yes,
Of course they are.
They have been for ages. The first time I worked with them, it was 2006, 7, and etc. There was another company in Italy which was called SD Microelectronics.
They did similar stuff.
Yeah, they did similar at that point of time, but ASML is like, yeah. The Chinese company is called SMIC.
Yeah, it's very
SMIC.
What's up with the 4-letter thing?
But also SMIC, I think it's the least imaginative kind of name. It's a semiconductor manufacturing
Incorporated.
It's it's
But
honesty.
what is TSMC?
TSMC. That's
Taiwan Semiconductor.
Conductor manufacturing company.
Well, there we go.
And
This is what we do. This is our name.
This is our name.
That's my.
But
I mean, this is a big thing for China, of course.
But
then
this is the layer on layer to understand the AI industry, right? And we get to what powers the whole thing ends up in a small company in Amsterdam.
That's Semiconductor Manufacturing International Corporation.
Oh, yeah.
It's the least imaginative kind of name.
Yeah, it's like TMC but backwards, right?
All right.
Cool.
And OpenAI was planning to create their own AI chips, and Microsoft as well, because
they can't do the lower stuff. They can't do the ASML.
And how far has Elon come on this? Because he's doing the chips that he was saying was the...
I'm not quite sure. I think they are still asking TSMC to do the stuff for Elon.
Because he
planning
got
to go. And
no, but he
build
wanted
a
to build
3
GPUs was
3 nano.
optimized for autonomous driving for some in some
they
way.
have their own chip.
Yeah, they have their own.
It's being manufactured, as far as I know, at least in TSMC.
Okay.
But anyway, they now have the potential to come really close to high-end chips. And what I heard is that they have a bit of a different technology than ASML has that potentially can scale even better. And they are potentially able to go to 2 nanometer chips soon, which would be top of the line in the world. But we'll see. But it's kind of big news, I think.
Does Moore's law apply in these contexts as well?
This is more or less exactly Moore's law, because Moore's law was originally the number of transistors you can put on a chip.
Yeah.
And
now we're talking about the different dimensions of the chip.
The smaller you can make the transistors, the more transistors you can put on the chip. And then
so this is part of Moore's law.
All right.
What would happen with the? Sorry.
No, please.
What would happen with the like faster processors and people writing shittier code? So like, there's not really a speed increase. Like,
what do you mean people are writing shittier code?
Is
the bottleneck the chip anymore, or is there other bottlenecks?
No, I don't remember. I'm going to try to find it. I read about like the fast computers means people write actually non-optimized as optimized code, because like
I get it, because people then when you only had 20 kilobytes, you were really sharp at writing super efficient code, and now that craftsmanship is dying because there is such an abundance. Is that the argument?
Yeah, so like there's a good enough thing here. It's so fast that it doesn't matter anymore. But then again,
Well, with the huge AI models we have of today, I think there are too big. I think what's going to happen in coming years is that the size of these models is going to drastically drop, and we're going to have like a modular kind of architecture.
And those then coding will be super important again to get high performance out of a lot less data or size.
At least we won't. I think today we have this kind of huge demand on the hardware, which is causing the kind of cost that you Goran just mentioned for GitHub and Microsoft, and that is not a sustainable solution. And we really need to reduce the hardware dependencies and the cost for doing so. And I think that is what we're going to see in coming time, while still increasing intelligence, by the way. I think, the transformers models that we have today are extremely nasty and wasteful in the number of parameters. That's going to change, in my view.
Right.